Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, or CMMC, requirements are set to go live in November after years of rulemaking. This is from an article written by the Federal News Network guys, and I'm going to be creating a multiple series of videos because starting November, the CMMC rules that are going to be affecting small business government contractors, all government contractors that do business with the DoD, specifically affecting how you handle what's called FCI, Federal Contract Information, and CUI, Controlled Unclassified Information. So as you are working on your first government contracts, it's very likely that you are coming into place with these different types of information, and CMMC is mandating how we are going to operate as a small business government contractor and ensure that we stay in compliance because it is a security concern. And why this is important to you is because starting November, as these requirements start to get incorporated into your federal contracts that you're bidding on, is that you will not be able to actually bid on contracts anymore if your contract is requiring a CMMC level 1, 2, or 3 certification. So as I said, I'm going to do a multiple series of videos. This is going to be the first video in the series. And in this video, I just hope to educate everybody on this very quick-paced upcoming rollout of the CMMC rule implementation. And then in the future series of videos, my intent and goal will be to how to get you prepared so that you will be able to essentially operate at least at level 1 so that you will be able to go after level 1 requirement contracts by doing a self-assessment. So my goal is in those future videos to help you prepare and do everything that you can so that you remain eligible to bid on contracts. But I am aware that many of you are not even aware of what's going on with CMMC, so I want to dedicate this first rule to establishing a foundation, and I'm going to be doing that by reading from 2 articles that have been published by the Federal News Network. So this first article, and I will be kind of jumping around, was just pushed out again September 10th. So at the time of recording this, it's just over the weekend here. So just last week. And what they're essentially letting us know, and I'm going to skip around like I said, DoD published the final acquisition requirements for CMMC in today's Federal Register. The rules become effective 60 days after publication, and they're saying that will be November 10th. So the rules kick in November 10th. We can start to see things start to show up in your federal contracts as early as November 10th. Okay. The publication of the final acquisition rule marks the end of years-long rulemaking to make CMMC a reality. The goal of the program is to ensure that defense contractors, again these are DoD federal contracts, are following existing cybersecurity standards for protecting controlled unclassified information, that CUI that I spoke about just a minute ago. The CMMC 2.0 requirements are intended to do that through self-assessments for more benign data, as well as third-party audits for contractors that are handling more sensitive data, such as weapon systems specifications. We expect our U.S. vendors to put U.S. national security at the top of their priority list. Kate Arrington, who is performing the duties of the DoD CIO, said in a statement this week, by complying with cybersecurity or cyber standards and achieving CMMC, this shows our vendors are doing that exactly that. I'm going to now jump to an article that was published last year where that indicates the Pentagon releases the final CMMC rule, right? Paving the way for implementation. That was last October. Now we're in September, so we're pretty much a whole year ahead, and we are looking at that implementation again coming November 10th. So I wanted to read a little bit because this will give you a little bit more background on the different levels of CMMC. So the Defense Department released the final rule for the long-awaited CMMC program today, further paving the way for CMMC requirements. Coming down a CMMC glacial effort, the Pentagon has been developing the requirements for more than 5 years. DoD began developing rules due to concerns that many companies were not following contractual cybersecurity requirements, allowing U.S. adversaries to steal sensitive but unclassified data from their networks. After significant industry pushback due to the expected costs and impact of the original program, and guys, this was going to cost tens of thousands of dollars to small businesses just to go through this program, DoD revised the program into the so-called CMMC 2.0 in 2022. So DoD will eventually scale the CMMC requirements across all applicable contracts, but in its proposed acquisition rule, the Pentagon laid out plans for a 3-year-long phased rollout of the requirements, in which during that time, PMs, program managers for the DoD, would have the discretion to include CMMC in contracts. Now here's what I'm really wanting to get to, the final rule on the 3 levels. Okay, so the final rule establishes 3 distinct levels of CMMC, as first envisioned under the revised program. The CMMC requirements align with the existing acquisition rules that require contractors to implement cybersecurity controls in the National Institute of Standard and Technology, NIST, Special Publication 800-171 for protecting controlled unclassified information, CUI. Under Level 1, contractors that handle less sensitive, quote-unquote, federal contract information, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this, the FCI versus the CUI, will be able to submit a self-assessment of their compliance. So this is Level 1, and that's what I'm telling you in this series of videos. I want to show you how to accomplish a Level 1 if I am able to, but that is my goal. Under CMMC Level 2 requirements, contractors that are generally required to protect control unclassified information, CUI, may be required to obtain that third-party assessment. And those third-party assessments, they can be expensive. Those auditors will be authorized by the Cyber Accreditation Body, a nonprofit that holds a contract with the DoD. Meanwhile, DoD says some CUI will require a higher level of protection against risk from advanced persistent threats. Contractors that handle that type of info will be required to get an assessment led by the Defense Industrial Base Cybersecurity Assessment as part of the CMMC Level 3 requirement. The Level 3 requirement includes additional cybersecurity controls laid out in the NIST. CMMC, quote-unquote, provides the tools to hold accountable entities or individuals that put U.S. information or systems at risk. I want you guys to also read these articles. I will link up all these articles down below. We actually also have the final rule put into implementation, and I will be linking that up for you as well. That comes straight from the DoD Defense Acquisition Regulation System. So coming back to our original article, where we left off, we can see there's 4 different phases in this kind of graphic. I'll zoom in a little bit for you as well. So this is Phase 1, Initial Implementation. That's, again, what's starting on November 10th. So that says begins at 48 CFR, rule effective date, and where applicable, solicitations will require Level 1 or 2 self-assessment. So they're starting with a self-assessment. That's why, again, in these series of videos, depending on the time you're watching this, I will have future videos that show you how to get set up and to do that self-assessment. Phase 2 then it begins 12 months after Phase 1 start. Where applicable, solicitations will require Level 2 certification. So not just self-assessment, but here certification. And then Phase 3 begins 24 months, so that'd be essentially 2 years from now, because we're starting at the beginning here. And where applicable, solicitations will require Level 3 certification. So Phase 4 is full implementation, beginning 36 months after Phase 1, so 3 years. And then all solicitations and contracts will include applicable CMMC level requirements as a condition of contract award. So as you can see, this is over a 3-year period, and we're starting off the beginning of year 1 at November 10th. And scrolling down, we can hear it into their words. DoD laid out a 3-year implementation plan in CMMC rule finalized last year. The phase plan is intended to address ramp-up issues, provide time to train the necessary number of assessors, and allow companies the time needed to understand and implement CMMC requirements, DoD wrote in that program rule. The first phase, beginning on November 10th, will last 1 year and will involve DoD including CMMC self-assessment requirements in all applicable solicitations and contracts as a condition of contract award. Okay, so we're not waiting 3 years for them to be a condition of contract award. It's just that those are requiring the Level 1 self-assessment. That's going to be kicking off starting as early as November 10th. During the first phase, DoD programs will have the discretion, okay, we're seeing that again, to require a third-party CMMC assessment in solicitations, but it will not automatically start including the third-party requirements until the second phase of the program, which will be after 3 years, so after 2028. During the following stages of the phased implementation, DoD will still have the active discretion to waive or to delay third-party CMMC assessment requirements, but the DoD's goal is to have a fully implemented and adopted into every contract or solicitation within 3 years of the acquisition rule becoming effective, meaning the DoD's target date for full implementation is now November 10th, 2028. Okay, so with that being said, I'll just tell you, for the next 60 seconds or so what my goal is for this future series of videos, as you have a little bit of understanding of what's going on here. And as well, as I said, I will be putting the links for this information down below for your own research too. So to accomplish the level 1 self-assessment, your end goal is you're going to have to upload that information to what's called the SPRS system. And you can find that at sprs.csd.dis.mil. I will link this up down below, so we'll have a whole bunch of helpful resource links down below this video for you to start learning more and exploring. So SPRS is actually part of PIE. So you can see when you go to login, it's going to be a login or register via PIEE. If you're not familiar with that, this is also the Procurement Integrated Enterprise Environment. That's what it stands for. So you will have to be registering there first. So it's my intent to create a series of videos where I show you how to register in PIE, where I show you how to access SPRS so that you can further conduct a proper self-assessment, at which point in time I will be going over all levels that you need to make sure, all boxes you need to check to complete a fully passing and acceptable grade for your level 1 self-assessment. So I'm not trying to throw too much at you. I'm not coming at you with the language that we're going to be uncovering in those future video series, but feel free to familiarize yourself with SPRS and PIE in the meantime, and definitely check out and research the links down below, guys, so that you can get on top of this requirement. I see this as twofold being a very great thing. Number one, of course, it's going to increase the overall protection of, again, controlled, unclassified information as well as federal contract information. So it's going to make us much more secure as a nation when it comes to protecting our data. But then also, interestingly and totally separately, number two is federal contractors, your competition, who are not doing this, are eventually and very soon not going to be able to bid on at least some of the contracts coming out. So for those small businesses, you guys that follow me on the channel, of you who are able to take advantage of this window where there's going to be a gap, and the gap will likely never come back to where it once was. There's going to be a fall off of contractors to some degree, but probably a lot at the beginning, who are not able to bid on contracts, at least those contracts and solicitations, for example, on sam.gov, where it will include the actual requirement for level 1 self-assessment. They will not be allowed. It will be as black and white and restrictive as having a cage code. If you don't have a cage code, you simply cannot bid. You will be ineligible. And so we're looking at that level of separation and division, where if you do not have the level 1 self-assessment and the solicitation you're interested in going after requires it, you will strictly be prohibited from having your offer be considered for evaluation. So again, I think this is going to be a huge opportunity for those contractors who jump on the bandwagon right away, because you're probably just going to have straight up less competition. And so I'm very passionate about creating this video series to help as many small businesses as possible to become compliant, so that you can take advantage of this window of opportunity to go after DoD contracts that require level 1 self-assessment over the next year, because I know there's going to be so many small businesses that don't even know that this is rolling out, right? They don't even know this is going to be a thing, and then they may start or continue to bid on contracts, then they're going to become ineligible, at least for those DoD contracts requiring this. Whereas you, if you're able to put yourself in a position to take advantage of this, you are hopefully going to benefit even more so than past years without this requirement, and you have lower competition perhaps on certain contracts. So I'm not going to say too much more. I don't want this video to be overly long. I want to keep these particular videos especially to the point. So if you're new here, definitely subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions down below, feel free to drop those, as well as check out all the resources that I mentioned in today's video. This will just be video number 1 in a series. It might end up being 2, 3, 4, 5 videos. I'm not sure what it's going to end up being. And they're not going to be rolled out a day apart. It's going to take weeks for me to kind of do this. I want to make sure that I'm doing it properly, giving you the most proper information and giving you the links all along the way, so that it's not all reliant on me. That way you can continue to do your own research to make sure that you are doing everything necessary for your business, because what's required for one business might be different for another. but we're going to go through together, and I'm going to do my best job with full transparency to give you all that information so that you can take advantage and also stay compliant and ensure that you are operating at a cybersecurity level that is required in the federal space. So stay tuned for future videos for this series, guys, and until next time, you got this.